Uh-oh, he has that look in his eye again. Yes, he does. I wonder what Trump's done this time. Well, I'm actually talking about a different out-of-touch old white piece of shit today. Bad move, Murdoch. I've had a long and difficult day and I needed something to get righteously fucking angry about. And the universe delivers. This is Keep a Vegan.
Sometimes I wanna take it from a little to a lot, and I am spinning in a circle like a dizzy little top, and I am calling all the people I'd forgotten about and trying to tell them that I figured it out, but it's a lie, and all the stupid things I say and do and never really stop when I should never have begun. I really ought to drop it, but it's faster when you don't even have time to stop and think about the things that you were saying, cause they never really matter. But it's empty spaces in the air, fill it up, fill it up, fill it up, oh no, oh no.
The Sun, bastion of good journalism. But what's this? Eating a low-fat diet increases your chances of dying young by 25%? Oh, I am literally moist with anticipation. Let's get into this, shall we? A major study claims that eating a low-fat diet could kill you. Cutting back on butter and cheese and meat raised risk of death by 1/4? This Lancet study suggests what people eat could be more harmful to health. I mean, what people eat could be more harmful to health. Eat what? More harmful than what? Nick, check yourself before you wreck yourself, buddy. Researchers found that consuming too much bread, pasta and rice was much more likely to shorten life expectancy. Oh, that's a hyperlink. Hopefully that will take us to the study so we can read it in. Oh, no, just another Sun article. Those who munched the most carbs, particularly refined sugars found in fizzy drinks and processed meats, faced 28% greater risk of dying young. Munched the most carbohydrates. The NHS advises that consuming too much saturated fat raises cholesterol levels. Sidebar, that's because it does. But latest research found that low saturated fat intake risked early death by 13% compared to eating plenty. Plenty, Nick. Is that metric plenty or imperial, Nick? The study is linked here, though, so that's... oh, no, that's another Sun article. Consuming high levels of fat cut mortality by 23%. Higher intake of fats, including saturated fats, are associated with lower risk of mortality. Diet had little impact on heart health risk, suggesting it affects other killers, such as cancer, dementia, and respiratory disease. I shouldn't get so hung up on the grammar of these things because it's actually really difficult to type up and editorialize articles written in crayon. It's time for a complete U-turn in the dietary guidance. The sooner we do that, the sooner we reverse the epidemic in obesity and diabetes, and the sooner start improving health. Okay, so now I'm furious. Since we haven't actually linked to the study, probably because when the Sun googled how do I SEO, they got confused and just started linking to themselves over and over again, I guess we'll never read this study. Oh no, wait, you can't hide shit from me. First up, a little how-to in how to address these studies. Whenever you come to a scientific paper being touted by a newspaper or a media outlet, especially one you would usually read very slowly out loud, the first thing you do is check down here at the bottom, declarations of interest. Now for some added fun, if it's a study on dairy and bone health, make a small wager with your friends on how many drug companies you'll find down there. This time though, it's empty. So I guess that study's all gravy, right? Well, now let's look at the acknowledgements. Now this is a massive wodge of text and I struggle reading from screen, so let's just even this out a little bit. Just so we're clear, pharma, pharmaceutical, pharmaceutical, pharma, 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 and it goes on and on. Now from a scientific perspective, you should always let the data do the talking, but if you're not confident, you could interpret the numbers, or the data or the conclusions, or you're playing corrupt scientific sponsorship bingo and you're one stamp away from winning. Checking who paid for the science can be a great way, just to see if what you're reading is even potentially on the level. I will once again point you to Bite Size Vegan's video on the egg industry linked below, well worth a watch. Right, let's see what the data says, shall we? The PURE study is epidemiological cohort study of 130,000 people between 35 and 70 taken between 2003 and 2013. Dietary intake was recorded using questionnaires and the outcomes were mortality and cardiovascular events. Participants were organised into quintiles of nutrient intake based on the percentages of their intake. Okay, well let's boil these results down, shall we? Firstly, the average age is meaningless as we range between 48 to 51, then a jump to 53. Remember the article? You die younger? It's not quite how it sounds, is it? It's a tragedy, all these carb bandits dying at the early age of 49 before they can reach the ripe old age of 51. Also, we know that even though in the West we are living longer, it's a case of not being stricken ill, restricted to a wheelchair or crutches in those last 2 decades. It's quality of life as well as life expectancy. Now, if we look at the countries consuming the most carbs, they also have the lowest amount of diabetes. If we sort it by saturated fat, we get the opposite. The only outlier here is Europe and North America, which is a massive area to only have 10% of your subjects coming from. So in table 2, I could spend ages going through this whole study on camera, point by point, going through the results. There's no point, okay? This study looks at all the different types of fats, but carbs are just carbs. Looking at just carbs, especially with the populations with worse financial health, it means that all of the good carbohydrates like whole foods, rice, pasta, potatoes and so on get lumped in with sugar, refined bread and rice, processed foods, sweets and soft drinks. Saying that fat is better than carbs because of refined sugar is like saying that gravel is statistically healthier for you than potatoes because some stupid keeps eating baking potatoes whole and choking on them. B. Those dodgy Europe and USA numbers. C. Habitual food intake was assessed by questionnaire at baseline. What does that mean? It means that in this 10-year study, food was assessed at the start. It's a good thing no one changes their diet in the space of 10 years, right? D, this just isn't how science shows this stuff works. Taking a relatively small sample, poorly aggregating the statistics and then claiming that fat is good and carbs are bad is f***ing irresponsible. Saturated fat increases cholesterol production in your liver, and animal foods with saturated fat tend to also have a lot of cholesterol in them as well. The cholesterol gets in our system, our immune system then attacks the cholesterol carrying LDLs, and then you end up with these decomposing LDLs constricting fatty streaks of white foam cells, constricting and shrinking your arteries and causing heart problems. Carbs, good carbs, are so damned hard to turn into fat that you end up burning 20% of them in the process. Biologically, we're not omnivores, we're herbivores. As weird as that sounds, we have no adaptations for eating animal products. How would it ever be possible that the food we are scientifically built to be eating is the thing that's killing us? If this was the case, we'd never have got out of the crude stage and into, If only there was more science about this stuff. I mean, if only there was more, if only I could think of more places where science could be found that shows how this stuff works. If only there was an epidemiological study which covers a huge population that looks at these trends in health in a less fucking corrupt way. If only that was a thing that existed. In conclusion, this is another study propped up by the companies that charge you for their expensive medication, telling you that you should eat the foods that are causing you to be sick and need these expensive medications. Don't buy into the bullshit. As for The Sun, this is the newspaper that paraded the perpetrator of the Manchester bombings alongside his victims in the aftermath, the direct aftermath. This is the paper that played a part in the Hillsborough follow-up. It's a joke paper. It's a joke paper, owned by a joke, and the punchline is anyone that reads it. Listen to the science and the facts, and in cases like this, just follow the money. As always, save the planet, save the animals, save yourself. Go vegan. I needed this today. Don't forget sources on the website and head to Patreon for more awesome stuff. I'm tired now.